Hey, this is Jared. Welcome to Eating Enlightenment. I'm a former binge eating wrestler and I became a Zen monk. And now I'm an eating coach counselor. And I help people to stop overeating by catching their cravings, creating sustainable eating habits, and stopping the sabotage. So, to do all that stuff, you really have to go into the emotional attachment of food. So, instead of thinking of food as like a plan, like a calorie plan, like you have 1,200 calories per day. That's very logical. We need to go the next level down into the emotional brain. And in this video, we're going to go deep into the emotional brain. We're going to be exploring how babies perceive the world and why you really need to address food at the childhood level, the childhood attachment, understanding emotional attachment patterns to really heal the food relationship. It's a radically different way of thinking, and we're going to deep dive into that today. If you like this video and this in-depth content, be sure to like it. It helps the YouTube algorithm spread these messages of eating enlightenment far and wide. And be sure to subscribe to it. It really helps out the channel. Okay, without further ado, let's hop in. So the first thing we need to cover about food is that food is relational. It's part of who we are at a very foundational level. When you were born, you were breastfed. Your mother and food and nourishment was you. It was your environment. It was when your brain was forming. All right. So, what that means is that when you are trying to think about food, when you're trying to use willpower and control, and when you fall off the wagon, that means you're operating out of the logical brain. Now, babies, they don't think logically. They don't have the language centers of their brain developed yet. They are at the emotional level of their brain. So we're going to be exploring this emotional level. And this is a different language. It's a different world. And you really need to journey inward to heal that relationship, to understand how to manage those childhood emotions, to meet those unfulfilled needs, to heal your relationship with food, to stop self-sabotage, to meet your health goals. So the reason food can work on your brain level, at the emotional attachment level, is because eating ideally is very soothing. So let's just look at these benefits about why eating can be so soothing for kids, right? Oftentimes, eating involves closeness to parental attention. Your people are generally happy during feeding, and eating as a toddler. Here's the key things right here. Eating as a toddler helps you give exploration and mastery, power and control, and you're rewarded. And so these things right here: exploration, mastery, control, a feeling of closeness and parental attention, and getting rewarded. These are emotional needs. These are very important. Food can be a substitute parent. Okay. I mean, ideally, your mom is enjoying breastfeeding you, she's snuggling you close. But, for me, I don't know exactly what happened in my childhood, but based upon my own understanding of psychology, I don't think I got that closeness. I don't think I got that attention. I don't think there was something missing. And so food became a substitute parent. Food can help you get control. It can help you soothe. It can help you get a sense of, power. It can help reward you to perk you up. So a lot of people, many people, 50% of the world, I don't know. We don't have the best childhoods. We don't. And it sucks. It freaking sucks. And it's unfair. And it sucks. It just sucks. It's totally unfair. And food can kind of be a substitute parent. And this is why we have such a hard time changing our food relationships, because at the childhood level, we need our parents. And so, unless we get down to the childhood level to work on this needing our parents, needing food, we can't really heal. And so, this brings me to attachment theory. And this is the point of the video. Attachment theory, um, great story. Mary Ainsworth in the 1970s, female scientist. So back then, too, it was much harder to be a female scientist. And she came up with this strange situation experiment, which really like shocked the world because it was a groundbreaking experiment done by a woman. And the experiment was incredibly simple. And the beautiful thing about this particular science is that it's been replicated thousands of times over the world, and it's 50 years later. The results are very conclusive, and pretty much everyone is in agreement here. It's very powerful science. And so in this study, it was young infants, and they were in a room. And by the way, this is considered unethical nowadays. You probably wouldn't do this nowadays. At least in the past 10 years, things have changed a little bit. But anyways, mothers are with their children. They were observed. The mothers left for a couple minutes, and the babies either cried, they either didn't cry. There's a table actually, which we'll get into in a second, which will explain these. I don't want to say something that's incorrect. So let me just share that my default attachment style is dismissive avoidant. So based upon the baby's reactions to when their mother left, researchers were able to categorize 4 different types of attachment styles. Secure, which is great. If you're secure, it happens. You got a great childhood. Love it. That's great. Anxious, emotional hunger. There's this fantasy. This is me. Isolation, confusion, unsure, and emotionally distant. This, my default. I've worked on my attachment patterns over a long time. And so I think I'm more or less in the secure category these days, but there's always a foot on the other side, right? Like you can never really totally let go of your childhood, but you can learn to be secure. But anyways, this is mine. And then there's another one too, which is about 1% of attachment styles. I believe, roughly speaking, it's about a little less than 50% about secure, but let's say 50%, then about 25%. This is like 1%. I'm forgetting the exact numbers, but it's something like 50, 25, I know that doesn't add up to 100, but you get the point. And the fearful avoidant is just conflict. Okay. So, here's the table that I was talking about. So attachment theory, there's secure is when the baby actually gets upset when the mother leaves, but then is happy when the mother returns. And avoidant, which was probably me, I didn't do this strange experiment, but I'm betting that if my mom came back, and I don't mean to harp on my mom, but this is it's who I am. It's no blaming. This is just the facts right here, what I believe. I probably wouldn't reach out to her. I think I was, avoidant, basically. And then there's the anxious, and where they're very upset, and they are, they close down. And so the point of this is really to understand that babies at the foundational level of the brain, remember that layer of the brain, that second layer, not the thinking, but the layer underneath, it's about relationships. It's about emotions. Logic has nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. And we're going to really get into relationships in a practical way. There are practical tips you can do to work with your relationships at the childhood level, to work with the food relationship. That isn't based on logic. So we're going to dive into that. But it's just really important to know that babies don't logically think. If you're trying to logically plan out or white knuckle or discipline or any type of control or willpower, it's always going to end in self-sabotage. You're at the wrong layer of the brain. And the brain is emotional. It's attachment based. And so this is a book here. I think this is useful to see how babies, the you could say the baby's brain is like a bunch of relationships. Maybe you got the mother and you got the father and you got the grandparents, you got the neighbors, you got some friends that come around, you got your primary caregivers, you got the community. But it's the baby's brain is more like a connected network of people. It's not like, and through this connected network of people, you develop an ego, you develop a sense of self, and you learn to call yourself by a name. I'm Jared, right? You start to see yourself as an individual. But being an individual is built upon this connected network of people that are, whoever your childhood, your community, your neighborhood, your caregivers, your immediate social circle, your parents' immediate social circle, and family, extended family. This is what is the foundation. I mean, the very foundation of who we are. And this really is a spiritual truth, actually. In Buddhism, there's this concept of Natman, literally no soul. And that sounds terrible, but listen, it just means that all things are interconnected and interdependent. So no thing, including ourselves, has a separate existence. So what I'm saying is all these relationships, all these people, all these different connections, this is what is forming the foundation of your attachment to food. So therefore, our baby emotional limbic brains think in terms of people, relationships. This hopefully is getting more clear. So let me just to recap again. We have these weight loss diet tips. These are all logical. These are all willpower. These are all control. Be disciplined, have a vegetable, limit processed foods, eat slowly. These are all pieces of advice. These are all to-do lists. This is at this level of the brain. This is logical. This is willpower. But these types of advice, I mean, they're good. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, we got to do these things, but they're missing out on this conversation right here. They're missing out on the limbic system and the survival needs. And so we really need to heal our relationship with food by making contact with the inner child inside. We have this inner kid inside who is thinking in terms of relationships, who is thinking and feeling in terms of relationships, who's feeling in terms of unmet needs and connections. And unless we can get access this part of you, and everyone has this part, you're always going to be missing the point. You're always going to be self-sabotaging because you're not addressing how the foundational level of your brain operates. I mean, this just isn't in childhood. I mean, 80% of the brain gets formed. 80% of the brain gets formed by year 3. Year 3. The foundation of your brain is this relational attachment, even if you're an adult. It's not like, so anyways, as an adult, if you're struggling with food, you absolutely need to go into those foundations. And the beautiful thing is you definitely can do it with mindfulness and a little bit of training that I will get into right here. And here's the key. How do you talk to a baby? You go, woo, hey there, hey, you're safe. Hey, little one, you talk to it. You talk to it. This is the point of this video. You literally have to have a conversation with the inner child to let the inner child speak, to let the child express himself or herself. And there is a voice within you. And I see this all the time working with people. They are easily able to tap into and express and articulate their inner child because this inner child is in you and you absolutely need to converse with it. And I literally mean talk. I literally mean talk to it. It's why if you're new to eating enlightenment, it's why in eating enlightenment, we journal, right? Because when you journal these conversations out, it is so powerful. You're actually talking to them. You're having this conversation. And this conversation is sort of the opposite of that to-do list. Remember those willpower diet tips or whatever, do yoga, reduce carbs. That's like, whatever. That's over here. That's a whole different tool set. That's a whole different logical thing. And great, that's great. Most people are missing this part, the ability to talk to their inner child, to listen, to hear the needs of power, safety, mastery, excitement, safety, these needs. And by through the conversation with your inner child, you can meet those needs. You absolutely can. You can, this is a great title for the book, Reconciliation. You can reconcile with your inner child. You have that ability within you. And the beautiful thing is, like, you automatically have the ability to reconcile with your inner child. You have an inner child, and this is not something that's separate from you. This is, and the ability to connect with your inner child. You might doubt that you're able to connect with your inner child, or that your inner child can ever be reconciled with, but children are designed to seek attachment, to seek a sense of connection. And you, nowadays, your ego self can give that attachment to the inner child. Your inner child is there, and the conversation might be a little bit halted in the beginning. It might be a little broken, or maybe the inner child doesn't trust you, but you can definitely learn to reconcile with the inner child. And so this sort of is the opposite of what I was saying. This little cartoon here, but like this guy, he says, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. And then this woman, what is your inner child telling you? And his inner child is saying, listen to Blink 182 and watch The Simpsons, right? And then this is the joke. That guy's right? Like some people, when they think about their inner child, they think about their inner child just telling them to binge, telling them to overeat, telling them to do all these stupid things. And that's kind of not exactly true. This is more how it's done. Your inner child is not, when you're able to sense in your body, you're able to tell what your inner child is feeling, and you're able to kind of talk with your inner child. It is not like your inner child is in control per se. It's not like the inner child is saying, "Do go watch The Simpsons and binge and listen to Blink 182, and then you are compelled to do it." No. This is different, where you're in charge. You're pausing before you eat, and you're journaling, and you're getting grounded and mindful. And then you're creating a container of safety, and you are in control per se. You're the parent here. You're the parent. I mean, this is a kid. Your inner child is a kid. A kid isn't going to control you. I mean, in real life, if a kid told you to, like, if a kid on, your niece or nephew, if they're 3 years old and they told you to eat a pizza, you wouldn't take it seriously, right? It's not quite the right analogy here, but anyways, the inner voice is not like, you can learn to trust it. You can learn to listen to it. You can learn to have a conversation with it, even if the inner child is acting up, being rebellious, being manipulative. You can learn to converse with it and to ultimately integrate those unmet needs and heal that relationship with food. And so this is what we do at Eating Enlightenment. Catch your cravings. That's the mindfulness part, to free yourself, right? And so if you want to learn more, you can go to eatingenlightenment.com. And then again, I hope this made sense, why you got to address those attachments, getting into the conversations with your inner child and the feelings. And that's how you create sustainable eating habits. You meet those needs, you're able to actually connect and understand and meet those emotional needs of your inner child instead of going to food. If you don't do this, I'm sorry to say, it's just, you're going to repeat the same pattern. It's not sustainable. Whatever the willpower is not sustainable, because it's not because the foundation of the brain is relational. The foundation of the brain is interconnection, and interconnection is about relationships, and relationships are about conversations and moments. It could be a nonverbal conversation. could be a nonverbal conversation, but conversations. And you need to be able to converse with your inner child, and yeah, to feel it and to understand what it's saying. And you do this, and the eating stuff starts to kind of come into alignment pretty naturally, actually. And you have this ability. It's beautiful. You have this ability to do this automatically because you're human. Okay, so let's wrap up the video. Thank you for your time. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe. Leave me a comment down below with any questions. Let me know what your attachment style is. Okay, leave a comment down below with your attachment style. Remember, we got those 4: secure, avoidant, anxious, and fearful. And then subscribe if you haven't. Namaste.